Today is Saturday, August 8th, 2015, and we are doing our half-day Zazenkai. Uh, uh, One thing I'll mention is Wednesday night, the Zendo had an old friend visitor. Um, was here for our chanting service and then stayed overnight, and that is Taigen Roshi, the spiritual director of the Toronto Zen Center. So it was lovely to see an old friend and uh, sit together again. Uh, Today, we will look at case 35 in the Wumen Kwan, or gateless barrier, Mumonkan in Japanese, which is the true Qian. The case goes like this. Wutsu was also Faiyan, I believe, and Wutsu Faiyan, yes. Chinese death date is 1104. In Japanese, his name would be Goso. Lived in the Sung period. He was the teacher of Wan Wu, the editor of the Blue Cliff record, and Wu Men, compiler of the Gateless Barrier, was directly in his line several generations later. So this is someone that Wu Men would think very highly of. Wu Tzu asked a monk, the woman Qian and her spirit separated. Which is the true Qian? Now, this case is very, very short. However, there's a long story behind it. And that story is a kind of Chinese novel and ghost tale. So this teacher was using a popular story and turning it into a koan, as we'll see. So this is the story of Qian that appeared in various Chinese books of ghost stories. And it goes like this. In a place called Hanyang lived a man called Chang Qian, whose youngest daughter, Qian, was very beautiful and the pride of her father. He also had a handsome nephew named Wang Zhao, and Chang Qian, as a joke, used to say they would make a fine married couple when they were grown. The two young people, however, took this jesting seriously and thought of themselves as engaged, being in love with each other. When Qian grew up, a man of rank asked for her hand in marriage. Her father decided to comply with the offer, and tragedy could not be avoided. Qian was deeply distressed, and Chao, angered and grieving, resolved to leave home and go to another province. The next day, he got a boat ready for his journey, and after sunset, without bidding farewell to anyone, he proceeded up the river. But in the middle of the night, he was startled by a voice calling to him, "Wait, it is I!" And he saw a girl running along the bank of the river beside the boat. It was Qian. Chao was unspeakably delighted. Qian sprang into the boat, and the lovers found their way to safety in the province of Chu. There they lived happily for 6 years and had 2 children. Qian, however, could not forget her parents and often longed to see them again. So they decided to return and ask for her parents' forgiveness, because Chou was feeling the same way. He felt distressed that he had taken her away without parental blessings, and he felt guilty about it. So they decided to go back now that things seemed to be pretty settled, and asked for forgiveness. When they arrived at her father's house, her husband went first into the house, leaving Qian in the boat, and apologized to the father for taking his daughter far away from her home, and begged him to forgive them. "What is the meaning of all this?" exclaimed the father. "Who is this woman?" "This is Qian," replied Chao. "Nonsense," said her father. "When you went away, Qian became ill and has been in bed for all these years. That's not Qian at all." Chao went back to the boat and brought Qian back up to the house. Being told of this, the Qian, lying in bed there, arose up out of the bed and went toward her. and the two became one. Chang said that after Chao had left, his daughter never spoke and lay there as if in a stupor. The spirit must have gone from the body. Chen said that she hadn't known her body was in the house. When she felt Chao's love and saw him go, she had followed him as if in a dream, but after that remembered nothing. So that's the ghost tale, the story, the novel. That was popular in China. And again, the case is Wu Tzu asked a monk, the woman Qian and her spirit separated. Which is the true Qian? Now, Wu Men's commentary. If you realize the true one, then you'll know that emerging from one husk and entering another is like a traveler putting up at an inn. If this is not clear, don't rush about wildly. When you suddenly separate into earth, water, fire, and air, you'll be like a crab dropped into boiling water, struggling with your 7 arms and 8 legs. Don't say, I didn't warn you. And Wu Men's verse, which is quite beautiful. The moon and the clouds are ever the same, different from each other, the mountain and the valley. How wonderful, how blessed. Is this one? Is this two? Now, this is a particularly valuable koan for lay practitioners. No monks, no nuns, no teachers, no students, just ordinary people in the ordinary mess of ordinary life. Yet here is exactly where each of us must find our real, true wholeness. Not in some special Zen world, not in the future, not as Zen students, but as human beings. Otherwise, what's the point? And indeed, every day we ourselves are challenged on this very issue in one way or another. Which is the true one? Which is the true you? Is it the one shopping at Wegmans or the one vowing to save all beings? Is it the one at a baseball game with your daughter or the one yearning to be in a Zendo, letting all issues of the self-centered self go? Is it the one earning a living at a complex, demanding, draining job or the one aiming for complete liberation and the welfare of all beings? Is it the one sitting in the Zendo doing Zazen or the one sitting in the Zendo dreaming of that novel they always meant to write? Is it the one trying to get out of a difficult job and find a better situation, or the one accepting the difficulty as it is? Is it the one hoping to run off and get away from it all, or the one wondering if that's such a good idea? Is mind the true one? Is body the true one? And so on and on. The question remains, which is the true one? The real one? The real you? The one who does it? Or the one who doesn't? Whatever the it might be. The mind that knows and suffers, plans and dreams? Or the body that gets sick, laughs, cries, stands up, sits down? If you say, oh, it's the one who wants to save all beings, or it's the one who yearns for full enlightenment, that's the deepest and the realest one, you've already gone astray. If you say it's the one living and doing and dealing with things as they are, that's got to be the realest. The other is just a dream. You've gone astray. If you say both, it's not so. Nor is it neither. If you pick one side, it won't work. If you suppress one side and decide to just make do or just accept, it won't work. If you work at just staying calm or even mindful, whatever the situation, it won't work. There's something still missing. What could it be? If you say mind, what about body? If you say body is real, what about mind and hopes, dreams, fears, desires? Which is the real you? What is the really real you? Why are you practicing if you are already the really real you? What do you expect from your practice if you are not right now the real you? Why do people shave heads and put on robes and quit the world? Is it to be real? Why do people not do these things? Is it to be authentic? Transmission case number 4 of the Denkoroku, Transmission of the Light, a Japanese Soto koan collection that traces the path of Dharma transmission from Shakyamuni Buddha to Dogen Kigen. We do this as the last book of koans that we work on before beginning the Juju Kinkai, which are the precepts approached from a practice realization perspective. That case, number 4, goes like this. Upagupta, the 4th ancestor, attended the Venerable Shanavasa for 3 years, then finally shaved his head and became a monk. Shanavasa asked him, has your body or mind left home? Leaving home, shaving the head to become a monk is known as the ceremony of leaving home, as you let go of all that past life, all that home that you've settled into. So, has your body or mind left home? The master replied, truly, it is my body that has left home. Shanavasa said, what has the sublime truth of the Buddhas to do with body or mind? On hearing this, the master underwent great realization. What is real? What is the essence? Is there such a thing, the essential person, unchanging, solid, real? Or is there only the changing? Then now I'm 6 years old, now I'm 80. Now I'm into stamp collecting, now I'm into collecting Buddhas. Now I'm looking for a job, now I'm retired. Now I'm crossing a river, now I'm flying in an airplane. Oh, how I want to be real. Isn't this why we practice? We've seen to one degree or another how unreal our life can be, how unreal, inauthentic we ourselves can be. Help, we may say. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, help me find reality, be reality, escape from this world of illusion, greed, selfishness, stupid rules, and unending change. It is too painful being always split, never whole, and so never truly real. How can we be whole? For isn't that indeed what it means to be real? Whole, complete, not dwelling in shadows or illusions, not split, not torn apart by circumstance, not yearning for one thing while doing or required by life's circumstance to do another. Yet how can that be? How can we get wholeness if we're not already whole from the beginning? Is wholeness something we can acquire? Or is that too another illusion? Peter Matheson, who later became a Zen teacher himself and who died last year, wrote in The Snow Leopard, his truly famous and well worth reading book, that he visited an impressive Lama in Dolpo, it's old Tibet. The Lama lived in a hermitage that had been built into the side of a cliff. The Lama had arthritic or paralyzed legs. Those legs clearly made it impossible for him to ever leave his hermitage. Matheson at one point asked if the Lama felt trapped there with those withered legs, unable to leave his little monastery high up on the sheer mountainside. The Lama looked at him and burst into laughter, laughed and laughed. Then he said something to the effect, no, I'm happy here precisely because I cannot leave. Was he just accommodating circumstance? No, I'm happy here precisely because I cannot leave. Will the real you, the real me, please stand up? Here's Aiken Roshi on our koan. If koans are the folk stories of Zen, then here we have a folk story as a koan. And as such, it is not unique in our study. Case 42, Manjushri and the young woman in Samadhi is another. But that is a Buddhist folk story, while this case emerges straight from lay Chinese tradition. The reader who placed the story before his students, the teacher, who placed the story before his students was Wu Tzu Goso, whose name means fifth ancestor. Don't confuse him, though, with the traditional fifth ancestor who lived in the 7th century. This Wu Tzu lived in the Sung period at Mount Wu Tzu, and during this time was greatly revered. He was the teacher of Wan Wu, the editor of the Blue Cliff Record, and Wu Men himself was directly in his line several generations later. Like Nanchuan, he appears in the Gateless Barrier 4 times. That says a lot about how highly he was regarded. As a young man, Wu Tzu studied Buddhist philosophy, and one day a fellow student challenged their teacher with the words, "If subject and object are one, how can that fact be realized?" The teacher responded, "It is like drinking water and knowing personally whether or not it is warm or cold." Wu Tzu said to himself, "I know about warm and cold, but I don't know about personally." His teacher could not explain it to him and suggested he take up Zen practice. Accordingly, he wandered from temple to temple, finally settling in the assembly of Payun, Hakun. One day he heard the master give the following Teisho. There are several Zen monks from Mount Lu who have had Satori. If you have them speak, they give beautiful talks. If you ask them regarding koans, they answer clearly. If you ask them to write pithy commentaries, they do so nicely. Yet, they have not attained it. Wu Tzu was dumbfounded by this. Ultimately, though, he realized it personally and tangibly. The present case is grounded on that personal and tangible vantage. Then Aiken Roshi repeats Lafcadio Hearn, who was a Greek-Irish writer and storyteller who moved to Japan in the 1890s and became one of the foremost interpreter of things Japanese to the West, married a Japanese woman, became essentially Japanese himself. But he didn't get the point of this case. He retold this old ghost tale and really totally got sidetracked in terms of the details of the story. It's quite interesting. So he repeats Lafcadio Hearn's connection with this, and then he goes on. Aiken concludes about Lafcadio Hearn's take on this wonderful story. Off he went, flashing his wit and intellect as people sometimes do in the Doksan room, flashing history or philosophy or psychology. I can't help feeling, speaking of Hearn, that he was resisting the suggestion that he looked deeper than the surface. Wumen comments, now we're looking at the commentary. If you realize the true one, then you'll know that emerging from one husk and entering another is like a traveler putting up at an inn. And Aiken Roshi comments, once Yamada Roshi has a book out, he's passed away long ago, but a compilation of his teachings has just been published by Wisdom Publications. It's called Zen, the Authentic Gate, and it's by Koan Yamada, who was one of Aiken Roshi's two teachers. One was two main teachers, Yasutani Roshi and Yamada Roshi. Both were laymen. Uh, so once Yamada Roshi asked a student of the Diamond Sangha, "What do you think of death?" She replied, "Why, it's like when a bus stops before you. You get on and go." He approved that answer, says Aitken Roshi, and women would too, I think. The young woman Chen separated and rejoined. Can you identify her? It is not enough to say they were one from the beginning. Where is the real Chen? Now let's proceed. So, woman's commentary, let me remind you, goes like this. If you realize the true one, then you'll know that emerging from one husk and entering another is like a traveler putting up at an inn. If this is not clear, don't rush about wildly. When you suddenly separate into earth, water, fire, and air, you'll be like a crab dropped into boiling water, struggling with your 7 arms and 8 legs. Don't say, "I didn't warn you." So, when you suddenly separate into earth, water, fire, and air, this is the ancient vision of the body. Uh, it's made of the 4 elements: earth, water, fire, and air. At the time of death, dissolution, the experience of dying, is to experience those separate elements coming apart. It's the graphic image that Wu Men uses for this experience without realization is very painful. He says you'll be like a crab at that moment of death, dropped into boiling water, struggling with your 7 arms and 8 legs. Don't say I didn't warn you. When we're dying, it all comes to a head, is what they say. When we're dying, it could be very distressing. So in some ways, our whole life is a preparation for how we'll deal with that. Our whole life and all our practice is a way of already facing dying. There's a line from the Rolling Stones, Ruby Tuesday, if you know that song. Dying all the time, lose your dreams and you will lose your mind, make life unkind. Well, maybe it's unkind, maybe not. Maybe the best thing that could happen is to lose our dreams and lose our mind. We make a big deal about mindfulness, but it might turn out that mindlessness is even better. So woman is putting a challenge before us, saying, we're all going to be dealing with death. Of course, we're dying all the time, as the Rolling Stones say. Not just as the clock ticks. 1 minute we're this person, next minute we're that person. Where's the person we were? Where's the life we had? One moment we're in this situation. Next moment we're in that situation. Which is the real one? To get confused about this could also be like a crab struggling in hot water. We try to cling to what's already gone. We can't accept what actually is. Where's the real one? Where's the true one? Woman is putting it right in our face. Now, the point he's raising is, if you get to the bottom of this, realize what this is about, you can have true peace in the midst of change. This sounds like a good thing to work on and get clear on. It sounds like it's worth all the frustration, anxiety, sacrifice that Zen practice will indeed take. Woman makes it clear. Don't say, I didn't warn you. He knows what he's talking about. Now comes woman's truly lovely verse, the source of many of the paintings I was doing of the moon among the clouds. There's one up in the Doksan room. There's one up at the end of the hall before you go down the stairs. Moon among the clouds, very important Zen image. The verse goes like this: the moon and the clouds are ever the same, different from each other, the mountain and the valley. How wonderful, how blessed. Is this one? Is this two? What a nice balance to the crab struggling in boiling water. That beautiful verse holds out to us what's really possible. Stick and carrot are the oldest teaching devices known. Now, how could the moon and the clouds be the same? There's the moon, there's the clouds. Please show me that point. Moon and the clouds are ever the same. They've never not been the same, and yet there's moon and clouds. There's not a mayonnaise. They're not mixed together. What does sameness mean? Many people have some little bit of practice, and they're totally confused on the point of sameness, equality. Get totally misled there. Moon and the clouds are ever the same, but please don't think the moon and the clouds are one thing. The moon is the moon. Clouds are the clouds. How are they ever the same? Please show me that point. What's Wu Men getting at with that line? The moon and the clouds are ever the same. You can make a big mistake thinking about sameness and equality in spiritual practice and in spiritual life. We're all the same. Oh, well, don't have me do your dental work, please. I'd recommend going to a trained dentist. If we're all the same, you'd be making a big mistake to ask me to drill your teeth. Differentiation is important. The moon and the clouds are ever the same, different from each other, the mountain and the valley. Getting back to the moon and the clouds are ever the same, Wu Men requires that we personalize it in our lives and in our own terms, not in his terms and not 1,000 years ago in Chinese culture, but now in our own. Again, how will you show that point? The moon and the clouds are ever the same. Then we go on. Different from each other, the mountain and valley. Another important point we must realize: different from each other, the mountain and the valley. This is something we need to clarify in our life. It is absolutely as essential as the first point of sameness. Very important to understand the very nature of difference. If we don't see this, we live half lives, colliding with things all the time. Yes, the mountain and the valley are different. Thank goodness, vive la différence. And finally, wonderful, blessed. How about that? How wonderful, how blessed. I mean, really, could you ask for anything more than this very life? The moon and clouds the same, the mountains and valleys different. How wonderful, how blessed. But there's also that difference of being like a crab in boiling water. That doesn't sound so wonderful or blessed, is it? Different from each other, the mountain and the valley. But it is terrific, isn't it, to know that this is where it comes out? How wonderful, how blessed. But of course, for that to be true, we must realize the mind itself, our own mind. not someone else's. This is why Wu Men makes use of an old Chinese ghost novel of inner conflict to present us with this case of a woman torn apart, of societal conflict, youth versus age, wealth and power versus love, and finally, of wholeness gained. In the midst of life's dilemmas, we too can live at ease. What could be more blessed, more wonderful? But Wu Men won't leave us there. He won't let us settle down content and think we're actually where we're not. As Dylan says, anyone can fill up their lives with things they can see but just cannot touch. So Wu Men puts us back on the fire. Is this one or is this two? Be very clear. Is this one or is this two? What is his stance? What's he getting at? What is Wu Men up to in that oddly devilish way of his? Why is he making us squirm, as he said in another verse of a koan we recently worked on, while looking at us with the black, piercing eyes of a devil? That was in Sheng Yan's Man Up a Tree. What a character. What a card. Even serenity for Wu Men isn't enough, won't do. He won't let us rest on the top of the mountain, enjoying the beautiful view. He gets us up and going again, right on up and off the mountaintop, up off the very top of the old 100-foot pole. He wants to make sure we're really able to bring both sides of our life together. He's checking. How will we live with some degree of genuine peace right in the midst of all the conflict and change that are our life and that is still going to come our way? It won't all ever settle down. Expect conflict and change. How then will you be at peace? Where is that peace going to come from? Suzuki Roshi, founder of the main teacher of the San Francisco Zen Center, author of Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, long ago, in the early 70s, walked into a sesshin at San Francisco Zen Center. People were huffing and puffing and working very hard, having a hard time. Their knees hurt. They were beginners in practice. Their brains hurt. How can I get out of here? I can't do this. I hate this. They were having a hard time. So Suzuki Roshi walked around the Zendo and then he said, "The difficulties you're struggling with now," and everyone began to relax. They could see what was coming. This too shall pass. You'll soon be through this, and your practice will bring you real ease, real peace. Suzuki Roshi did not say that. What he said was, the difficulties you're experiencing right now will continue throughout your entire life. Then he turned around and walked out of the Zendo. It's like a traveler, moving from one inn to another. Can you have that kind of peace in your life in the midst of all the change, all the conflict, all the being torn apart by circumstance, all the wishing to be one place and being in another? How will you find that peace? Mindfulness is just the beginning of an endless path. Settling it once and for all, and then going on, even further, getting to the bottom of it, right down to the bare bare ground, or right up off beyond the top, right up into the vast empty sky, is what Zen practice is actually all about. But don't linger there either. A Japanese humorous verse, or senru, which is kind of like haiku, but it's about human life, not about the mysteries of the universe, sort of goes like this. Mr. Everything is empty is hauled off to the police station. What the verse is pointing to is simply this: not able to pay our bill at the restaurant because our pockets are empty, we can't just say, well, everything is empty. It won't work. The police will come and take us away just the same. Mr. Everything is empty is hauled off to the police station. The point, of course, is not meeting the circumstances of our life. We can't cling to emptiness to get us off the hook. But there is a way to be whole and no longer fragmented. It is not this, not that, not gaining, not losing, not mind, not body, not mind, not body. Please, do all you can to find it and make it your own.